there is a dimension of wealth that opens doors for you. Now, I don't want people to mistake it I think that wisdom is in compartments. You can have the wisdom for parenting, but when it comes to wisdom for building a business, you are foolish. You can be wise when it comes to team building, but be foolish when it comes to marketing. Yeah. I told you repetition leads to retention, but how do we do it now? I'm talking about visualization, vocalization, and verbalization, the 3 V's. So if you hear a thing repeatedly, if you see a thing repeatedly, if you speak a thing repeatedly, you'll memorize it.
If people are procrastinating, what do you think is the reason why people procrastinate?
People procrastinate for many reasons. Number 1, it could be low willpower. Number 2, it could be fear. Yeah. The problem is that a lot of people read without intentionality. Yes. Okay. If you read and forget, it's because you read to forget. If you read and remember, it's because you read to remember. The replacement theory says that if you try to give up a habit, it will rule your mind. But if you find a deeper habit, or if you find something deeper, the less significant will fall off. The greatest gain for your brain is pain. So when it's painful to learn a thing, you remember it better. Whatever you learn painfully, you remember better. So life is a tragedy to those who feel. Life is a comedy to those who think. You can be wise and yet be poor. It's one thing to have wisdom, it's another thing to be able to commercialize your wisdom. You can learn any skill in 20 hours.
Any skill?
Any skill in 20 hours. Yes, any 20 hours. 20 hours is 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for the next 30 days.
Hi guys, welcome to this special episode of Selahmeditate. Good to have you today. And today I have a very special guest with me, beside me here, and his name is Adekanmi Olusanya. Mr. Adekanmi Olusanya is a learning expert specializing in fields of memory enhancement, reading proficiency, innovation and creativity, and habit formation. Having memorized 10 books of the Bible and formed a 500 book per year reading habit, he founded the Bible Immersion Program, where children are coached to memorize the New Testament in 10 years or less. He also founded the Geek Book Club, where members are inspired to read 100 books a year by spending 10 minutes a day in smart reading practices. He is also a corporate trainer, a consultant, and has consulted and trained executives and corporations in various sectors and businesses. He is also an avid fruitarian and health enthusiast. Remember to hit the subscribe button and share this video with someone. So ladies and gentlemen, I bring to you Mr. Adekanmi Olusanya. Thank you for having this interview with me.
You're welcome.
Apart from what you have said and this very brief introduction of you, can you tell us about you a little bit more?
Well, I don't like to talk a lot about myself, however, but I believe in knowledge. Okay. I train and coach a lot of people on how they can build their knowledge and use that knowledge to impact their lives. Okay. So we do a lot of coaching, training, consulting. Everything revolves around knowledge. So innovation, memory formation, strategy, thinking, and which also has a lot to do with how you can control your emotions, emotional mastery, and areas such as more constructive conceptual thinking, especially when it has to do with things like peak performance, entrepreneurship. And so we coach entrepreneurs, career people to achieve their goals and everything around maximizing your potential, but using the brain. Everything we do revolves around neuroscience and maximizing your cognitive potential.
What can you say about memory formation? How do one begin to form the sound memory?
Okay, there are a couple of tenets to that effect. For example, repetition leads to retention. So when people want to memorize a thing, repetition is one of the major tenets to that. So the more you repeat a thing, what's your name?
DPC.
Have you ever, do you see yourself forgetting your name? Why? Because you have repeated it over time. People ask you every time. You have to say your name repeatedly. People don't forget their favorite songs. People don't forget the national anthem and things like that because it has been repeated over time. So memory formation, it's just very possible, but it's predicated on repetition because repetition leads to retention.
Okay. So what is important about what you do and how does it help people?
Okay, very, very important. Very good question. You see, the strength of your memory determines the strength of your willpower.
The strength of your
memory determines the strength of your willpower.
Break it down.
Very good. So, you see, a person with an amazing memory will also have amazing willpower. Now, the difference between successful people and unsuccessful people, partially, is willpower. Unsuccessful people don't have the energy, the drive, or the willpower to go the full breadth. So they get discouraged easily, they procrastinate easily. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
Ben Carson became one of the most successful neurosurgeons in the world. Why? One of the keys to his success was that while other neurosurgeons were performing 170 operations every year, he was performing 250 operations every year. He was just doing much more than others. Kobe Bryant was shooting up to about 1,000 free throws every day. Other basketballers on the average were doing less than 500. So successful people just do a lot more than other people. David Beckham used to practice for about 2 or 4 hours more than other players after their practice sessions were over. They just do because they have more willpower. The willpower is there. The more willpower is, they have more willpower. Now, don't forget that. Let me quote a little bit of the Bible. The Bible says the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak.
Okay.
So even those who are spiritual are actually more willing because it's the spirit that is willing.
Okay.
So one of the ways you can build your willpower is to build your memory because the part of the brain that controls willpower is connected directly to the part of the brain that controls memory.
How were you able to train yourself on this field?
Okay, it was just by sheer determination, personal determination.
How did it all start?
Okay, very good. I felt like committing suicide between 2005 and 2007. I was battling suicidal thoughts. And God helped me. I mean, I attempted it a couple of occasions, but I never succeeded. But coming out of that very dark experience, I started to give life a second try. Let me try to give a second shot at life and, really excelling. And one of the things that I decided I was going to try to do was to get a lot of the Word of God in my memory. I wanted to be very addicted to the Word of God. I felt like if I could be very grounded and rooted in the Word of God, it will affect every area of my life positively.
Okay.
So one of the first steps, apart from reading the Bible, there were 4 things I wanted to do. I wanted to read the Bible, I wanted to memorize the Bible, I wanted to study the Bible, and I wanted to meditate on the Bible. 4 different things. There are 4 different things. So, of course, I read the Bible. The second step was now to memorize the Bible before studying and meditating on the Bible. So, So I had to memorize the Bible. It was a personal goal, I set for myself in trying to, get myself to a place of excellence.
Away from what you actually read in
school. Yes. And, coming from depression and suicidal thoughts, I just wanted to addict myself to the Word of God as a way to turn around the fortunes of my life. So that was how I started memorizing the Bible.
So if someone is coming from a depressed state right now, someone is depressed and feeling suicidal, so you think memory enhancement is going to help the person out of that state, or what other things can the person do?
Yes. Well, memory enhancement, and you see, it's one of the things that can help because if you look at the way the brain works, we have two parts of the brain. You have the emotional brain and the thinking brain.
Okay.
Now, the emotional brain is called the limbic system. The limbic system comprises of the amygdala and 1 or 2 other parts. The central part is the amygdala, but I don't want to bore you with all that jargon. But that part of the brain is responsible for what we call the fight, flight, or freeze response.
Okay.
And it's connected a lot with a lot of negative emotions. However, the thinking part of the brain controls more of positive emotions. So I'll give you an example. When you are spending a lot of time in constructive thinking, you are bound to get a lot more of positive or connect with more positive emotions. Like, for example, that's why people say the more you think, the more you think. If you're not thinking well, you're not thinking well. So the more we think.
And think.
Yeah. In fact, they are taken from the same Greek word, thunk.
Okay.
Yeah, Latin word, thunk. So if you spend, now I want to quote this. Life is a tragedy to those who feel. Life is a comedy to those who think. So determine what part of the brain you are going to focus on, or what part of the brain you are going to invest in. Are you going to invest in the emotional feeling part of your brain or the cognitive thinking part of your brain? The more you think, the more ideas you get. And listen, guess what? When you get an idea, you stumble upon an idea, how do you feel? You just, an idea comes, a brilliant idea comes. How do you feel?
You feel happy.
You feel happy.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's from the thinking brain. It's from the thinking brain. Now, so we need to understand, if we understand how the brain works, our life will become more adventurous, it will become more positive, it will become more brilliant.
How does habit formation start?
Okay, it starts with an act, and then from an act it becomes a repeated act, and then your brain stores it from your short-term memory into your long-term memory. It goes from your conscious to your subconscious. When it gets to your subconscious, you don't need any conscious effort to make it happen. It can happen without you even almost thinking about it. For example, has it ever happened to you that sometimes you switch off things in your house without even knowing that you switch it off? You are leaving your house and you switch off the appliances, and then sometimes you go out and you're asking, did I really switch off? But yes. You see, the thing is that you are not sure because you have done it subconsciously, or you are driving. You see, you are driving, but you have driven so well that you can even change the gear without knowing. You don't have to think about, okay, it's time to change the gear now. That's why you can be driving at the same time you are changing the gear. You can be driving at the same time you are taking a call. But a person who is driving for the first time cannot try it. Yes. Because when you see people learning how to drive for the first time, they are, when it's time to change the gear, they will almost stop everything they are doing and then change. And then when it's time to, accelerate, because they are conscious, you see, that's it. But when you do a thing repeatedly, it gets into your subconscious that you can do it almost without thinking. That's why some players, Ronaldinho, for example, could juggle the ball with his eyes closed. Because,
that's true.
He had done it so well and so repeatedly with so much intensity that it had gotten into his subconscious. That's why Garry Kasparov, the greatest chess player of all time, could play a chess game with his eyes closed.
Wow.
And it's not just these people. So many people that could, Da Vinci could draw and write at the same time with both hands at the same time. It's repetition that leads to habit formation. Repetition leads to habit formation.
Okay, what if I have a habit that I want to break? How do I now break
Very good.
that I don't like?
Very good. There are different protocols. Okay. But let me list a couple of them. One of them is called the replacement theory. The replacement theory says that if you try to give up a habit, it will rule your mind. But if you find a deeper habit, or if you find something deeper, the less significant will fall off.
If you try to give up a habit, it will rule your mind.
It will rule your mind. Okay. I will explain to you now. Okay. But let me repeat it again. If you try to give up a habit or give up a thing, it will rule your mind. But if you find something deeper, the less significant will fall off. Okay. Now, let me explain to you. Let me explain. For example, if you tell somebody that try to give up chocolate, the person is going to start thinking of, how am I going to give up chocolate? So he's now going to spend more time thinking about chocolate. And listen the next time I'm going to talk. Energy flows where attention goes.
Energy flows where attention goes.
So the more attention you are giving to a thing, the more energy you have for that thing. So when you tell somebody stay away from chocolate, or for the next, if you tell a person that for the next 3 days you're not going to eat food, the person is going to start thinking about food more than, because for the next 3 days I'm not going to eat food. How am I going to cope? I will die. Yeah. So guess what? If you didn't say that, the person would have been thinking about his normal duties in life. I have to do this. I have to do that. But now that you have put food as the
in his brain,
main focus, that you're not going to eat food for it, he's going to start thinking more about, how am I going to cope? How am I going to be able to sleep without food for 3 days? And all that. Now, the more he thinks about it, the more energy he gets, because energy flows where attention goes. Yeah.
Wow.
So, let me break it down for you in this sense.
Okay.
When you find something deeper, the less significant will fall off. the less significant will fall off if you find something deeper.
Can you give a practical example?
I will give to more than one practical example. That's very simple, very, very simple. So when I was going to break away from football matches, I was addicted to watching football. And I felt like for the career path I was chasing, I didn't need to spend that much time watching football.
Okay.
So I just found something more significant. So I started, and things like neuroscience was that one more thing more significant. So guess what I'll do? I will watch a TED Talk on neuroscience for just about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And I still had my football passion or football addiction. But guess what? When you introduce something, because nature abhors vacuum, the other thing becomes less powerful. So, for example, you introduce a new habit like, okay, I'm going to start focusing on neuroscience, watching a little bit of neuroscience. And neuroscience occupies 10% of your time, which means the others have 90%. When you increase your neuroscience to 20%, the others have 80%. So guess what? The others are still more dominant, but they are less dominant compared to what they were before. Then as your neuroscience increases to 30%, guess what? This one is falling down to 70%. As this one is going to 40%, this one is coming down to 60%. As this one is going to 50%, this one is coming down to 50% again. So they are now at par. And as you continue, this one goes to 60%, the other falls down to 40%. And listen, let me quote the Bible. The Bible says, Demas had forsaken me, having loved this present world. Now, Demas used to love God before, but Demas forsook me, having loved this present world. There was something that just took the other position. And then the Bible says, in the last days, many shall be lovers of pleasures more than lovers of God. So you see that in life is always a tussle between one thing or the other. So if you can introduce something, slightly, all the other things will lose their intensity. The same thing with food. Second example, with food. I used to be very addicted to carbonated soft drinks. What did I do? I just started eating an apple a day. I'll eat one apple before binging on whether it was malt, it was malt drinks, whether Maltina or whatever brand it was. Then I went from one apple to 2 apples, because your stomach can only take so much. So when you start by eating healthy food, you have less space for unhealthy food. So guess what? I went to 3 apples a day, then 4 apples a day. But as my apple intake was increasing, my carbonated soft drink habit was going down, until I eventually broke free from my addiction to carbonated soft drinks.
Wow. So now, when it comes to memory enhancement, do you think there are people that are born genius, that these people, they are just genius, they don't need memory enhancement? Or do you think it's just people that are dull, not bright, that just need that memory enhancement program?
Okay, you know what? That's a very good question. Some people are born with amazing brains. Okay. There was a man called William J. Sidis. William J. Sidis became a Harvard professor when he was 16 years old. Okay. Professor of mathematics at Harvard University. He had the highest IQ ever. His IQ was between 250 and 300. Wow. Some people are born like that. Some people are born like that. They just have amazing, they have telegraphic memories, you know. However, not everybody is born that way. However, the beauty of life is that if you're not born that way, you can build that way. So
to build that way.
If you're not born that way. So you either have those who are born that way or those who build that way. There are so many of them like the geniuses who were not born that way but built that way. Ben Carson was very dull in school, but his mother groomed him to what he is today. Thomas Edison, his teacher gave his mother a note saying that, take your son, he's so dull, and teach him yourself. But the mother thought, the teacher said, your son is too intelligent, teach him yourself, because she was a dullard, she was an illiterate as well. And so she just felt like, okay, he's very intelligent, and that's why they have brought him back from school, and I should start grooming him. And she groomed him, and Thomas Edison eventually became one of the greatest American inventors of all time. So the brain is like a muscle. The same way you can go to the gym and build your muscles, the brain is a muscle. Is based on or made up of muscle cells known as lipids. It's like a jelly-like substance, you know.
But when I was growing up during school days, I heard that there are some students, they are not just that bright and they are not smart, they are not intelligent. So it's usually assumed that these people, this is their destination, they are not bright. You cannot be able to make them know. Whatever the teacher is trying to do to groom them, to make them better, It's actually not working. So can you say, is there a time that, is there people that you say, okay, these people, their destiny means that they cannot enhance their brain, this is what they are created to do? Or it's possible that everybody, no matter how dull you are, you can be able to enhance your brain?
I would say that no matter, I don't think you should rule out any human being. I think that some people have, you call some people special, that this person is a special child, this person is a special case. Yes, some people may need more work done on them, more intensity and all that.
Okay.
However, I still maintain that it's not just even with the brain, with any skill whatsoever. Whether a person is going to be a sports star, whether a person is going to be a musician or whatever. I've seen so many people deliberately decide we're going to build a particular skill. They developed themselves in that area, and they became so amazing. How do you explain the fact that Russia, a little tennis club in Russia called Spartak Tennis Club in Moscow, has been able to produce more tennis stars than the entire United States within the last 10 years? How do you explain that? But let's assume that that's a coincidence, or that's just a fluke. How do you explain the fact that the Middlemount School of Music at Westport, New York, has been able to produce more violinists, great violinists, Yo-Yo Ma and the likes, than any other school in the world? Will you call that a fluke as well? How do you explain the fact that Laszlo Polgar said geniuses are made, not born? Laszlo Polgar said geniuses are made, not born. And he said, I will prove it. I will marry, I will give birth to 3 children, I will groom them to become geniuses, and they will become geniuses. And he got married to a woman, got a woman to agree to get married to him. They gave birth to 3 children, and he said that they will become chess geniuses, that I won't groom them in the arts, I will groom them in chess, because chess is very objective. And the first daughter, Susan Polgar, became a chess grandmaster. The second daughter, Sofia Polgar, became a chess grandmaster. The third daughter, Judith Polgar, became a chess grandmaster and the greatest female chess player of all time. So, it's all about the brain is a muscle. The same way, let me tell you something. Serena Williams today is muscular. She's more muscular than both of us. She wasn't born muscular. Come on. But she has been practicing for 6 hours every day of her life, except when she's injured, since she was young. And today you can see that she's a muscular. Arnold Schwarzenegger was not born with muscles. They just exercise themselves that way. The brain is a muscle. And when you understand that your brain is a muscle, then you can build it to whatever you want it to become.
It's interesting. Now, if I want to live a happier life, how can someone be more happier?
Okay. There are different things I will say to that, or different points I will raise as that. Number one, the person needs to find out, why am I not happy? If a person is not happy, why am I not happy? That's number one. You see, a lot of people are not happy because they have the wrong mindset. They have the wrong mindset. Let me give you an example. Donald Trump suffered bankruptcy about 5 years before he became American president. Okay. Yeah, he was bankrupt. Yeah. I mean, if you read a lot, you know that. Yes, you know.
Yes.
In fact,
yes, that's true. I read that.
Richard Branson was talking about how Donald Trump was coming to him asking for financial,
and he bounced back again.
Yeah. Now, but guess what? There was a man called Boris Berezovsky. You remember Boris Berezovsky?
No.
Okay, I'll tell you about him. He's a Russian oligarch. Was a Russian oligarch. These Russians that make a lot of money out of the Russian oil boom and all that. So, of course, Roman Abramovich. Sure. Boris Berezovsky was a contemporary of Roman Abramovich. He committed suicide.
Wow.
But let me tell you his story. So, he suffered a business loss. He was living in London. He went bankrupt. To cut a long story short, he went bankrupt. And he lost a major court case to Roman Abramovich. And after that, he said that life was becoming increasingly meaningless. And then he chose to commit suicide. Now, At the same time, Berezovsky felt like committing suicide. Donald Trump, suffered bankruptcy. Donald Trump also suffered bankruptcy. So 2 people suffering bankruptcy. One commits suicide, the other bounces back and becomes president of the US. So it's just about mindset. Some people would see that occurrence as an opportunity. You know what? One of the things somebody said, Donald Trump said at that time, he said that for me to get bankrupt at this point in my life, it means God has a bigger assignment for me. Yeah, that's number one. I'll give you another example. This is a real life story.
Okay.
2 people got sack letters on the same day. Sack letters on the same day. One said, wow, I'm finished. The other said, oh God, I thank you. I never knew that you chose to promote me in this way. That same month, the one who said, I never knew that you chose to promote me in this way, got a better job. The other one that said, I'm finished, remained unemployed. It depends on your perspective. You see, when you find people who are perpetually in sorrow, it's their mindset. They have a wrong mindset concerning. Let me give you an example. What is a person's mindset concerning rejection? It will tell a lot about whether the person lives a happy life or an unhappy life. I'll give you an example. Oprah Winfrey was rejected earlier on. They said she was too fat for TV. Oprah Winfrey. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 major publishers. She eventually wrote one of the most successful novels, Harry Potter. Give me some more. Jack Ma, one of China's richest men, was rejected 7 times by Harvard University. Warren Buffett was rejected by Harvard University. Warren Buffett, the great Warren Buffett, was actually rejected. He couldn't get into Harvard University.
Wow.
So, but guess what? Successful people see rejection as, this is a pointer to a better direction I should take in life.
That's true.
So you see, a lot of people, I'm not saying that perspective is the only reason why people are sad in life, but it's one of the main reasons why people are sorrowful in life. One of the main reasons why people are sorrowful in life is perspective. A lot of people do not know that in life works like a machine. It's either you understand how to ride a plane or you don't understand. Some people don't understand the rules of life, and because they don't understand the rules of life, they end up sad. Let me give you an example. You know, I'm a coach. Yes. I coach a lot of people. Last year, I had to coach somebody who felt like committing suicide. Why did he feel like committing suicide? He bought Bitcoin.
Wow.
With a lot of his money. He borrowed money to buy Bitcoin. No. Listen, this guy borrowed money to buy Bitcoin. The price of Bitcoin went down.
Crashed.
Yeah. Listen, and I told him that you made a wrong, you violated investment principles. When we violate the principles of life, we become sorrowful. When we obey the principles of life, we become joyful. Choose the one you want.
This is great. Now, you have been able to memorize some books of the Bible. Which of the books of the Bible have you been able to memorize?
Colossians, 2 John, 3 John, 2 Timothy, 2 Thessalonians, Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon. About 14 books.
Wow.
Yeah.
How were you able to do that? At what span of time frame you were able to do that?
Okay. Now, I started in bits and pieces. So I didn't start by memorizing books. I started by memorizing verses I liked. Okay. So yeah, I started with verses. So after memorizing so many verses from all the books of the Bible, I started focusing on, okay, let me start with this book, then that book and that book. And so I started taking memorization seriously. I told you that, and I felt like committing suicide. I came out of it in 2007, 2008. So that was when I started. So between 2008 and now, you're talking about some 14 years.
Wow, it took you 14 years to do all of that?
Yeah, yes, and it's not like memorizing was the only thing I was doing. I was doing other things as well. But you know, I am on a daily basis. I've been memorizing on a daily basis for the past 14 years.
So that's Colossians, Proverbs,
Ecclesiastes, Songs of Solomon, 3 John, Philemon, Jude, 2 John. You know,
which of them had the greatest impact on you?
I would say the Book of Proverbs.
The Book of Proverbs.
Yeah, Book of Proverbs.
Okay, can I ask you some of them and if you can recite
Why not?
them?
Why not?
Okay. So let's talk about Proverbs chapter 3.
Proverbs chapter 3. Okay. My son, forget not my law, but let thine heart keep my commandments. For For length of days, long life, and peace shall they add unto thee. Let not mercy and truth forsake thee. Bind them upon thine fingers, write upon the tables of thine heart. So shalt thou find favor and good understanding in the sight of God and man. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thine own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy paths. Be not wise in thine own eyes. Fear the Lord, and depart from evil. It shall be health to thy navel, and marrow to thy bones. Honor the Lord with all thy substance, and with the first fruit of all thine increase. So shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst forth with new wine.
It's okay there. Okay, let's go for the last one. Let's say Proverbs 12.
Proverbs 12, okay. Yes. Okay. Whoso loveth instruction loveth knowledge, but he that hateth reproof is brutish. A good man obtaineth favor of the Lord, but a man of wicked devices will he condemn. A man shall not be established by wickedness, but the roots of the righteous shall never be moved. Verse 4, a virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones. The thoughts of the righteous are right, but the counsels of the wicked are deceit. The words of the wicked are to lie in wait for blood, but the mouth of the upright shall deliver them. The wicked are overthrown and are not, but the house of the righteous shall stand. A man shall be commended according to his wisdom, but he that is of a perverse heart shall be despised. He that is despised and hath a servant is better than he that honoureth himself and lacketh bread. The righteous man wisely considered the house. The righteous man regarded the life of his beast, but the tender mercies of the wicked are cruel, and so on and so forth.
Okay. What's your favorite verse in Ecclesiastes? Which of it?
Okay, there are so many. There are so many in Ecclesiastes. I like Ecclesiastes chapter 10 and verse 14. It says that a fool's voice is known by the multitude of words. A man cannot tell what shall be, and what shall be after him, who can tell? That one of the ways, trying to say that one of the ways you know a fool is that they talk a lot. Okay. Then I like the next verse, verse 15. It says, verse 15 says that the way of a foolish man wearieth every one of them, because he knows not his way unto the city. So there are so many of them. For example, I like Proverbs 10, when you start reading from 16 down to 18. It says that blessed are you when your king is, woe unto you, O land, when your king is a child and your princes eat in the morning. But blessed are you when your princes eat in due season, for strength and not for drunkenness.
Now I want to there's this verse in Ecclesiastes that talks about I want to see if you can remember it, if I just say it out. That talks about there is a poor king. I mean there's a poor fellow, yes, that delivered the nation, yes, but he was not recognized, he was not regarded because he was poor. Yes. Which chapter of Ecclesiastes?
That's in chapter 4.
Is that chapter 4?
Chapter 4, yes.
You know the specific verse?
Yes, and when you start reading from maybe about verse 10 downwards, it says that there was a city and a few men in it, and there was a man, a poor man, who through his wisdom delivered the city. Yes. But no man remembered him. Exactly. And then he says, the Solomon now says that a poor man's wisdom is despised and his voice is not heard.
What can you say generally, in life general, regarding this scripture?
What I think it tells us is that there is a dimension of wealth that opens doors for you. Now, I don't want people to mistake it I think that wisdom is in compartments. Okay. A poor wise man means that you can be wise and yet be poor. What does that mean? For example, you can be a wise parent but a foolish businessman. So wisdom is in compartment. You can have the wisdom for parenting, but when it comes to wisdom for building a business, you are foolish. You can be wise when it comes to team building, but be foolish when it comes to marketing. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Yes. So you find out that even some of the wisest people. I'll give you an example. I like to use the example. Tyson was a very good boxer, which means that he had wisdom in boxing. But he went bankrupt, which means he was foolish when it came to money management. That's true. So we have to be very, very, very careful that wisdom is in compartment. That's why it's possible to have a poor wise man, because he's wise in combat, because through his wisdom he was able to deliver a city, which means that he was very wise when it came to battle strategy, However, when it came to wealth management, he was a foolish man.
How didn't that his wisdom to deliver a city didn't deliver wealth to him?
Yes, because wisdom is in compartments. That's why it is very good for us to read wide or to be very versatile. Let me use that word, to be very versatile. So you can't just know one area in a field.
But they say it's what you know that makes you money.
Yes. Yes.
So he has the wisdom to know that this land can be delivered through his wisdom. Why didn't that wisdom bring wealth to him?
Yes, some people are very competent in certain areas, but they don't have what you call the entrepreneurial ability. I'll give you a particular example. Nikola Tesla was arguably one of the most innovative and inventive human beings who ever lived. Okay. Yes, electricity, AC/DC was him, you know. However, he was not very, very astute in how to go from passion, you know what you call going from passion to profit, how to commercialize your wisdom. It's one thing to have wisdom, it's another thing to be able to commercialize your wisdom. And I think that was where Tesla lacked that ability. And I think that you still have one or two people like that in today's world that we live in that have not been able to turn their talent into commercial success.
Now, you have been able to memorize some books of the Bible. How can someone that doesn't know how to do that be able to do that and build it up strongly like you did? Okay,
very good. I'll give you some tenets as well. So I told you repetition leads to retention, but how do we do it now? I'm talking about visualization, vocalization, and verbalization, the 3 V's. So if you hear a thing repeatedly, if you see a thing repeatedly, if you speak a thing repeatedly, you'll memorize it. You'll memorize it. Okay. I'll give you an example. Let's assume that I want to memorize, what's today's date, for example?
Today is 13.
13, very good. So let me show you how I'll memorize Proverbs chapter 13, maybe the first 5 verses. Okay. No. So Proverbs chapter 13 and verse 1 says, a wise son heareth his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. That's verse 1. How do I memorize it? I hear it repeatedly, I see it repeatedly, I speak it repeatedly. That's it. So I will say it repeatedly to myself. A wise son hears his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. A wise son heareth his father's instruction, a scorner heareth not rebuke. Now, the more you say it, so I have this formula I created called the 5-5-5-5 method. It says that if you speak 5 verses to yourself 5 times a day, and you do so consistently for 5 days, you will commit it to your memory. If you speak 5 verses of the Bible to yourself 5 times, each of them 5 times, and you do so consistently for 5 days consecutively, you would commit it to your memory. So this is how I memorized 14 books of the Bible. Simply by, I will find the whatever verse or book I want, and I will take 5 verses, 5 at a time, and I will say it to myself repeatedly. And you can do so in 5 minutes. That's the beauty of it. You can do so in 5 minutes. So let's take verse 2, for example. So I've taken verse 1, and I want to take verse 2, or let's even take verse 3, is shorter. Verse 3 says, he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. And I say it, he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. He that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that openeth wide his lips shall have destruction. And I'm saying it to myself. Now, I've said it 5 times in less than 1 minute. Yeah. So which means that I can take those 5 verses and say each of them 5 times in less than 5 minutes. And then the next day, I do the same 5 minutes. I do it on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. By the time I get to Friday, it will have consolidated in my memory.
Does this apply to even learning a thing or a skill?
Yes, the same thing. Now, there's a lot. Let me tell you something. I want to tell you about what we call the 20-hour rule. You can learn any skill in 20 hours.
Any skill?
Any skill in 20 hours. Yes, any 20 hours. 20 hours is 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for the next 30 days.
20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for the next 30 days.
Yes. So if you want to make pizza, if you want to learn shoemaking, if you want to learn how to make beads, whatever, you can 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening for 30 days, and you are good. 20 minutes in the morning, because in the morning your brain is very fresh. 20 minutes in the evening, because when you learn a thing and you go to sleep, when you wake up, you remember it better. When you sleep, your brain consolidates whatever you have learned in the last 2 hours before you go to sleep. Yes, last 4 to 2 hours before you go to sleep. So if you are learning how to play the piano, and even if you are not getting it, you play it, you just learn it, and then you go to sleep. When you wake up, you find out that you are playing it better. Because when you sleep, your sleep is like a factory.
Okay.
It's turning raw material into finished product. Yes. So I've just told you about 2 different approaches. There are more than that. There are many approaches. So it depends on what works for you. You use whatever.
So
works
what about I'm a reader and I read different books. But sometimes I realize that when I read some books, I don't remember those things I read immediately after reading them, or I go tomorrow and I cannot remember them again. Do I follow the same process of trying to repeat, memorize, and all of that to be able to know what I read? Or there are key things I can be able to use to be able to say, okay, these are the things I learned and these are the things I picked from this particular book?
Okay. Most of the things that I remember, I don't even read them. I watch them. For example, do you know what a blue zone is?
Blue zone?
Yeah. Okay, blue zone is a place where people live to be over 100 years old.
I mean, if you are living there, you must get
Most
to
of the
100.
people, most of the people there live to be over 100. That's what they call a blue zone.
Where is it exactly?
There are 5 places. There are 5 blue zones in the world.
Okay.
Number 1, Loma Linda in California.
Loma Linda.
In California.
Okay.
Number 2, Okinawa in Japan.
Okinawa.
Yeah, you can Google everything I'm talking about. Number 3, Nagoya in Costa Rica.
Okay.
Number 4, Sardinia in Italy. And number 5, Icaria in Greece. Now, I can start telling you about these places, facts and figures. I never read it. I listened and listened and listened and listened. The problem is that a lot of people read without intentionality. Yes. Okay. If you read and forget, it's because you read to forget. If you read and remember, it's because you read to remember. You want me to take it again?
Yes.
If you read and forget, it's because you read to forget.
How can someone read to forget?
Yes. When you read and you don't read in a way to, read with intentionality that I want to remember what I read, I want to be able to practice it, I want to be able to talk about it. So I have a principle I use. One more. I write as I read, I recall as I read, and I recite as I read. Okay. That's another principle that helps me to remember a whole lot. So, for example, I'm telling you about blue zones now. In blue zones, they eat a lot of grains, greens, and beans, and tubers as well. They don't eat a lot of meats, like red meat and all that they do. And all those blue zones are peninsulas. They are all peninsulas. Why do I remember all those things? Because I intentionally said I want to read to remember. I want to read to remember. I don't want to read to forget. And how? Because I told myself that I will recall, I would recollect, I would recite, I would read and act as though I was going to give a lecture on this. So I will write as I read, I will recall as I read, and I will recite as I read. 3, write as you read, recall as you read, and recite as you read. So there has to be that intentionality that, okay, this thing I'm reading, I want to, first of all, understand it. So it's not like I'm reading to write an exam. Okay. Number 2, I want to be able to recollect and understand what I'm reading. So let me tell you something. I can tell you about every major musician in the world, how many records they sold. I can tell you Madonna sold 300 million records, Whitney Houston sold 400 million, Michael Jackson sold 750 million, Prince sold 100 million, Lionel Richie, Drake, and by now he has sold up to 100 million, and all those albums and all that. Because when I'm listening with a intentionality and a strategy. There's a principle on how to remember whatever I have read. The same thing with sports. If I'm telling you about sports, I will tell you how much Tyson made in his last 3 fights. I will tell you when he went bankrupt. I can tell you that, okay, Tyson has 8 children from 6 women. Evander Holyfield has 11 children from 7 women. I can tell you that DMX had about 27 children from about 12 women, and so, because when I'm reading, I'm focusing on, and let me give you one more principle. You see, when I'm telling people about learning languages, for example, I learn languages. I learn Hebrew, I learn Greek.
Okay.
Yeah. There are principles to learning.
Okay.
For example, do you know that if you learn 6 of the major languages in the world, you can communicate to 2/3 of the world? If you learn only 6, the world has over 2,000 languages. But if you learn 6 of the major languages, you can communicate to 67% of the world's population. You want to know those languages? English is number 1. French is number 2. Mandarin is number 3. Russian is number 4. Arabic is number 5. Spanish is number 6. If you can learn those 6 languages, you can communicate to 67% of the world's population speak at least one of those languages. 67% of the world's population. Do you understand? How am I able to tell you all these things? Because when I read it, I went back to it. I repeated, write as you read, recall as you read, recite as you read.
So the formulas.
So you see principles. I told you that whenever you violate principles of life, sorrow will be your portion. Whenever you obey the principles of life, joy will be your portion.
So the principles of life, it applies to everybody, whether you're a believer, unbeliever, so long you're a human being. The principle of life applies to everybody.
It applies to everybody. It applies to everybody. Every blessed person. Every blessed person. If you compound interest works for people, whether they are born again or not. Compound interest works with people. When you save your money in the bank will say, because you are not born again, your money won't have interest or something like that. When it's raining, it will say that this one is born again or this one is not born again. Rain will not fall on him because he's not born again and things like that. But let me say one more thing about learning. Do you know you can learn any language in 6 months?
Any language?
Yeah, in 6 months.
Okay.
So let me give you some principles now. Number 1, get to know the basic words. Go, come, Let's say you do that in your first week. The second week, you are learning major places, major people, major objects, and things like that. Good. The basic things. For example, Pareto principle states that 20% of the input produces 80% of the output. So, do you know that if you learn 20% of the most important part of any language, you can speak 80% of that language, and you can communicate to 80% of those people. Yes. For example, English language, you may not need to know words like, lacrimose. You may not need to know words like, lubricous or flabbergasted and all those things, But the basic words, once you get 20% of the basic word, you can communicate to 80% of the people and all that. So those are the principles I'm talking about, that you learn these principles and then communicating to people is really, really easy.
Okay, how does this help someone achieve success? How does trying to memorize, know things, study, memorize all those things, how does it help one to achieve success in life?
Okay, very, very simple. You see, memorization is just one part of it. Memorization is just a part of it. But I want to ask you a question. Who do you prefer? A lawyer that remembers all your details offhand, or a lawyer that has to go to his file and his book to remember your details? Which one do you prefer?
Definitely the one that remembers offhand.
Which one do you prefer? Do you remember a doctor that knows all your details offhand? He can tell you, the last time you came here, this was what the issue. The last time you came here, this was what I gave you. Or a doctor that has to go to the files. Which one do you prefer?
Definitely the one. If the one that can remember whatever, most of them, they will actually go to your file to check. But I prefer the one that remembers whatever that happened the last time I came.
Good. So, memory is not the only thing, but memory is one of the keys. A person that has a good memory will function better than one who does not have a good memory. It's the same thing even with coaching. When a coach remembers all the players in the opposing team, he remembers every fact about them. Let me give you an example. When Arsene Wenger was at Arsenal, he was going to sign, they wanted him to sign a particular player. He remembered that player was in a traumatic season of his life.
That's Arsene Wenger.
Yes, Arsene Wenger. He knew a lot about players, so he could say that, okay, this player is not a good player that we should sign because he's going through issues now that, it's just, we don't understand. And then and Jose Mourinho, for example, I want to show you why coaches are successful. Jose Mourinho will say that, let's not go to that hotel. I remember that the last time that we went there, I didn't like the kind of trappings that we had there. There were too many distractions, and then he would have studied all the hotels in a city. Before the players go there for a Champions League match, he would have studied all the hotels and he would have found the best hotel. Can you see? So, who do you want on your team? Somebody who is voracious for knowledge and who uses that knowledge to say, go left, go right. Or somebody who does not know anything about. Let's take investment, for example. Warren Buffett is one of the richest men in the world because he's a successful investor. Okay. Warren Buffett would have studied so much about an industry, studied so much about the companies, studied even the people in the company, the lifestyle. Are they wasteful? Are they very flamboyant? Are they extravagant before investing in the company? Who do you prefer? Somebody that has studied all your directors in the company? Somebody that has studied the industry for the past 40 years? Or somebody who does not know anything? Who will take better decisions? The person that has a lot of information or the person that does not have information?
Wow. So while we're thinking of rounding up now, how do we overcome stage fright? Stage fright? Yes.
Okay, there are many ways to overcome stage fright. For example, when you have stage fright, one of the things you can do is that you can ask questions to the people so that it's as if it's two people now. It's like a conversation. Then, if I have stage fright, for example, it doesn't happen to me, but if I have stage fright, I can just say, oh man, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is going to be a wonderful day. In fact, my body language will even say the opposite. I will smile, I will gesticulate. The more you gesticulate, the more confident you are. I'll say, you know what? Guess what? I have an amazing gift for somebody, an amazing gift. Who can answer the next two questions for me, and you will get an amazing... once you start involving people, there are so many principles. Guess what? There are so many principles to quelling or eliminating stage frights. Okay. But I'm just sharing some of them with you. Okay. Looking at the audience, using PowerPoint presentation so that the attention is not just on you. Okay. It's on your PowerPoint presentation as well. There are so many things that you can do. Then simply asking yourself, what, why, when, where, how. For example, if I'm going to speak on robotics now, robotics, and let's say I didn't study robotics, so they want me to speak on robotics. One of the ways I can cure that stage fright is to say, what is robotics? Simply speaking, okay, the phenomenon where robots try to do things to make humanity function better. The use of robotics. Why robotics? It can save time, it can save money, it can save energy. Do you understand? Where? What are the challenges we have in robotics? It may be too expensive and things like that. Can you see that by asking just a few questions, I'm becoming more stable in what I'm going to talk about, and the more competent you are, the more confident you will be. The more competent you are, the more confident you will be. So those are...
So that means applies to, do you think that it's all about if someone is not grounded on the knowledge the person wants to talk about, then it can bring in stage fright, or just the sight of the people usually causes stage fright?
Both of them. If you are not knowledgeable about what you're going to talk about, it could affect your confidence. It could affect you see it when... Did you watch the last vice presidential election in Nigeria?
Yes.
You sure you watched it? Did you see how the women were disgracing their presidential... female vice presidential candidates were very shambolic? Yeah, okay. You think... Am I not? Don't you think I have a right to my opinion?
Sure, you have.
Yeah, I think they were shambolic. One of them was actually reading from a tab. Yeah. Yes. She was actually reading Fela Durotoye's vice presidential aspirant. She was actually reading from a tab. Because she didn't know what she was going to say. She didn't know. Will Obafemi Awolowo go for a debate and be reading from a tab? No, answer me. Will Obama do so? No. Do you understand? So when you don't know what you're talking about, do you understand? That's when you have to start reading, or you're not sure what you're saying, or you start blabbing and you start, jumping around the bush when you don't know what you're talking about, do you need to look at a tab to answer your name?
No.
Because you know your name. So when you are talking about a subject matter and you know it as if you know your name, whether it's climate change you're talking about, or blockchain technology, or artificial intelligence, or election malpractice, or voter reform, and and whatever, if you know what you're talking about, you're going to be more competent. However, the truth is that stage fright could happen to a person even when you know what you're talking about. Yes, because, for example, if it's a new platform, let's say Oprah Winfrey is going to interview you, you may be a bit nervous. That's the truth. Some of the greatest professors are very shy people. They are my friends. Some of them are very shy. When it's time for them to be in a public setting, sometimes they are shy. That's why we talk about some of these new approaches that you can give. You can gesticulate, you can ask questions, you can do things, So those are
What is the process of making a research? If I want to research on a particular subject or topic, what is actually the right process I can take to research on that subject or topic?
Okay, one thing about my answer to that is that I will not say that there is one particular way.
Because I realize that most of the answers you are giving me, you are making reference to many things, show that you've researched wide.
Yes.
So what is the process? How are we able to do all of that? What's the process of trying to research on things and then having them all on your head like that?
Okay, maybe I'll take you to my library when we finish this.
Okay.
But I'll say to this that there has to be a plan. There has to be a structure. Yes, there's structure. So, for example, when you want to research, you start from the basic to the more complex. That's one. But that's just basic. Everybody knows that, But aside from that, I always like to, what I call, fragment it. So let me give you my example. When I was doing my research on the brain, I started by compartmentalizing everywhere. I said I was going to study the prefrontal cortex. I was going to study the amygdala. I was going to study the hypothalamus. I was going to study the hippocampus. I was going to study the cerebellum, the medulla oblongata, the cerebrum, the thalamus, and all that. But I was going to take it bit by bit, because with research, Rome is not built in a day. Start small and then build over time. Some people are consumed by what we call information overload. There's so much. And then they get flabbergasted or overwhelmed by it, and then their research is uncoordinated.
Yes.
Understand? So, for example, there's so much to read. Sometimes I may say that for the next 3 months, I'm going to do research only on a particular area of learning, or I may say, okay, I'm going to do research only on matrix reimprinting. That's one aspect. It could be me saying that, okay, I'm going to do research on emotional mastery alone, or I'm going to research on time management alone, and I'll take the best 5 books on time management. 4,000 Weeks, 4-Hour Work Week, When by Daniel Pink, 12-Hour Week Year by Brian Moran, and take the 5 books and just read the 5 best books.
You won't jump to other books?
No, I won't jump to other books, because you see, a distraction reduces your willpower. Distraction leads to procrastination. When you are distracted, the more distracted you are, the more your willpower goes and you procrastinate. I just stay focused. Now, okay, it's time management for the next 3 months, and it's time management only. If somebody says, come here, have you read this new book? That's a distraction. I'll read it later. There's always time for. So discipline, discipline matters a whole lot. You have to be very disciplined. You have to be very focused. You have to know what you want. You understand? Then you have to be very, very, you may need to be methodical. For example, I told you that if you spend, for example, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, 40 minutes alone on any topic, you'll be amazed at what you will learn in 90 days. I'm telling you. So it's about being strategic. Do you understand? Saying that, okay, this is what I'm going to do.
What if you are reading a particular thing and it starts becoming monotonous in your brain, start becoming boring? Can't you just, this thing every day is too boring.
Yes, very good. Very good. It happens. So you can now do a lot of what we call, you can roam. It's called roaming. So when you get bored in this area, you can roam to another area. It could still be in time management, or even if you get tired of time management, you can roam to another area. Do you know why? Roaming is better than not reading at all. It's better to roam than not read, because knowledge is convergent and divergent. As you roam, even the other knowledge you're going to acquire will tie to the knowledge you have even run away from, or you got bored from. So, for example, How did I discover some of the best lawyers in America? WRR Read. How did I discover Tom Mesereau, Michael Jackson's lawyer? How did I discover the three lawyers, Robert Shapiro for O.J. Simpson, Robert Kardashian, and Johnny Cochran? The more I studied rappers, whenever a rapper got into an issue, an altercation or a court case, I studied the lawyer. So I got to know the best lawyers by studying rap. So knowledge is divergent and convergent. So there's nothing wrong with roaming. It's better to roam than not read. The roaming would expand your knowledge base. How did I get to study the best architects in the world? Frank Wright, Frank Gehry, Zaha Hadid, Norman Foster. Simply by studying excellence in peak performance. And then I got to know, okay, this guy is an excellent peak performer in architecture. Then one led to another, the same way I can tell you about the best event planners in the world, the Christine Banters. I can tell you about them. I can tell you about the best makeup artist in the world, Pat McGrath. I can tell you about the best performance artist in the world, Marina Abramovic. You know, how did I get to know Marina Abramovic? Very simple. She was in a Jay-Z video. Yeah. She appeared. She was in a Jay-Z video when he dropped that album, Magna Carta Holy Grail. Do you understand? So you see, if you go deep in an area, you eventually go wide. Yeah, if you go deep in an area, you eventually go wide.
You don't confuse them, mix the names. Like now you're mentioning some names, man. Don't you one day you mix up a particular name rather than calling it a different name? No,
I think that the more your brain is like an instrument. When a brain is sharp, the more you sharpen it, the sharper you get. And so if you have a culture of reading every day, and the first 2 hours when I wake up, I don't talk to anybody. I'm just reading. The first 2 hours when I wake up.
First 2 hours.
First 2 hours every day. I don't talk. I only talk to people in the third hour after I've woken up. But in the first 2 hours, I'm just by myself. I'm alone. I'm reading. I'm doing the 7 hours: reading, remembering, reflection, research, recollection, repetition, and then rest. And then I write once in a while. I journal and write.
Anybody that's going for memory enhancement can start with any book, or there's a particular book that you need to start with if you're going for memory building.
If you want to enhance your memory, you have to read books on memory enhancement.
Okay.
In the BC, the world has gone past that stage. You don't even need to read a book.
Okay.
Just watch a YouTube video on how to enhance your memory.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to. There are so many of these things. You don't have to even read books nowadays. I'm not saying don't read books. I'm saying that information is inside you. It's on your phone. It's in your pocket and everything. So it's nearer to us than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, and all that.
Okay. Now, are there people that you can have testimony that you have built on memory enhancement that you say, okay, these people, you train them to get to this particular very good stage when it comes to memory building? Are there testimonies of people you have built like that? So
many of them. I mean, there are children who, when they came to me, they had not memorized any book. Some of them now have memorized 10 books of the Bible. There are so many of them. In fact, I have a business unit in my company that is tailored towards that, building children to memorize as much of the Bible as possible. So,
if people are procrastinating, what do you think is the reason why people procrastinate and how to break it?
There are people procrastinating for many reasons. Number one, it could be low willpower. Number two, it could be fear. You are procrastinating, toasting a girl. It could be that you are just intimidated. You're intimidated. You just feel like you don't have what it takes to toast the girl, or you are not sure what will happen if you toast her. And then sometimes a lot of people see mountains. They see that, for example, do you know that a lot of people don't think about traveling because they feel like, oh, it costs a whole lot of money to buy a plane ticket. They don't know that you can actually travel on a budget. Do you understand? A lot of people don't know, because so when a lot of people want to embark on a thing, they see first what will not work. They see more of the obstacles than the opportunities.
Wow.
So there are many reasons why people procrastinate. There are many reasons.
And then indiscipline. How do people build discipline when it comes to a task or a particular assignment?
It's still the same things we are talking about. For example, discipline is a muscle. I would say that discipline is a muscle you can build, like building any part of your brain. And so you just take a task. Okay, let me give you this principle. In life, you have to choose between one certain passion and pleasure. So a lot of people run away from pain. A lot of people run away from pain. That's the normal human nature, to run away from pain. And so when people run away from pain, their discipline muscles try to kind of collapse. But if you see pain as, there's something I say that the greatest gain for your brain is pain. The greatest gain for your brain is pain. So when it's painful to learn a thing, you remember it better. Whatever you learn painfully, you remember better. So the reason why a lot of people lack self-discipline is that they have what I call pain aversion. Pain aversion. They think that the discipline of saving money is something they should run away from. The discipline of delaying gratification is something they should run away from, and things like that. They don't know that. And let me give you one more mantra or one more principle. When you want to build discipline, you must understand that things, whatever you want to start on, is sour at the start, messy at the middle, but easy at the end. Yes. When you want to learn how to drive, the first week may be difficult. It's sour at the start. It may be messy at the middle, but it's easy at the end. So if people see whatever they want to embark on, like driving, they will have a different philosophy to it. That, okay, I can actually do this thing. I can actually, it may be messy at the sour at the start, messy at the middle, but it will be easy at the end.
Okay, now as we round off, I saw one of your videos that you talked about persecution and tribulation. Can you differentiate it properly?
Okay, so I said that persecution is taken from, tribulation is taken from the Greek word thlipsis. Thlipsis. And that means to pressure. But persecution is taken from the Greek word dioko. It means to pursue. Now, this is the difference. Tribulation shrinks you. Persecution expands you. I'll give you an example. You know Yinka, Allah Shayari, the girl that's, I don't think she's the one who wrote the song, but she sang Oniduro Mi Eshewo. Or we can even use Chris Rock as an example. Okay. When Chris Rock was slapped by Will Smith
on stage,
guess what happened? His ticket prices went from $40 to $1,000.
Wow.
Because he was trending. Yeah. When immediately he was slapped, he started trending. Yes. And when you are trending, of course, people want to go for your next show and things like that and stuff like that. Okay, so whenever you suffer something that increases your popularity, is persecution. Whatever you suffer a thing that reduces your prosperity or popularity is tribulation.
Something that reduces popularity.
When I use the word popularity, let me use a broader word like prosperity.
Okay.
Yes. So one of them shrinks you is pressure. Okay. The other is like, so when the church of God was persecuted in Acts of the Apostles, the Bible says they multiplied, the church spread.
Yes.
So there's a way you make somebody suffer and the person actually gets better.
Okay.
There's a way you make somebody suffer and then of course the person is compressed. Okay. The person goes down, the person reduces in his. Look at R. Kelly now. R. Kelly today has been sentenced to 30 years. His popularity is not where it was before. He can't tour like before and all that. So you can say he's going through tribulation, not persecution. Do you understand? Do you understand it now?
Yes, I get it.
That sometimes when we suffer things, it takes us higher. Sometimes when we suffer things, it shrinks us. So that's when it takes people down, it's more of tribulation. When it takes you higher, it's more of persecution.
Wow. So now you talked about, or you also talk about a core. What is a core, and how can someone find his core?
Your core is that thing that you do that feeds every other thing that you need to do. For example, you see, every human being has a core. Every human being. For Warren Buffett, his core was reading every day, reading voraciously. That core helped him to communicate better. That core helped him to take better decisions, to invest better. That core helped him to manage people better. Do you understand? Reading. For Larry King, one of the greatest talk show hosts is talking. Larry King will tell you that when he gets to his house, he talks to his mirror, he talks to his wall, he talks to his dog. Is your purpose for a model. Your core may be catwalking. You may need to catwalk for 6 hours a day. And just catwalk. The more you catwalk, the better you get at it. And that opens the door for every other thing. You know, so it's that one thing that catapults every other thing that you need to do and every other aspect of your success.
Okay. Now to round it up, you talked about people. Most people usually talk about time being the most important thing factor in planet Earth. But you said time is not important. It's not the most important. So I want to get that idea. Where did you come with that perspective that time is not the most important thing on it?
If time was the most important thing, the oldest men would be the most valuable men. Abi? Of course, now. If time is the most valuable asset, then the oldest men will be the most valuable men.
I don't think it's in that context. That context now, maybe it's on making money and making use of your time.
I think wisdom is the most valuable asset.
Okay.
I think wisdom is more valuable than time. In fact, a wise man can accomplish more in 1 week than a foolish man in 10 years.
Okay.
So that's why I say time is not the most valuable asset. I say that
wisdom comes with age or with learning.
Not necessarily with age. You know. Job said, "I said they should speak, and multitude of years should teach wisdom." But there's a spirit in man, and the inspiration of the Almighty giveth him understanding. Job chapter 32, verse 7 and 8. So, the wisest men are not necessarily the oldest men. So, if you look at every industry, the wisest men in every industry are not necessarily the oldest men. How old was Bill Gates when he changed the world with Microsoft Windows software? How old was Steve Jobs when he changed the world with our phones, iPod? You know, the wisest men are not necessarily the oldest men. Even in the health sector, the finest doctors I have discovered, I've studied a lot of them. The finest doctors are not the oldest doctors. Yes, wisdom, there's a part of wisdom that comes with experience and age, but that's just a dimension. So that's why I say that time is not the most valuable asset.
Okay, so now to round it off, you're also an etiquette expert. What are the general principles of etiquette, or what can you say about it?
I'm a rapper as well. You should know that.
Yes.
So apart from
after the etiquette, I want to
okay. So what's the question concerning etiquette?
What are the general principles of etiquette? What is all about etiquette that you do?
Okay, etiquette is applied ethics. So etiquette is the practicality of ethics. Ethics says that you have to be honest, you have to be respectful. Etiquette teaches you in practicality that, okay, to be respectful, allow an elder to sit down and stand up for an elder, allow an elderly person to pass when you are in a hallway, and things like that. So the golden rule is that treat others the way you want to be treated, or maybe even better than, because some people don't even want to be treated properly anyway in the society we live in today. But etiquette is all about consideration for everybody and doing things the proper way, the proper time, and at the proper place.
How do you connect them with memory enhancement?
Okay, the more agile your memory is, the more etiquette rules you know. The more etiquette rules you know and remember, the more you can practice. For example, I'm going to catch you now. Where do you place your fork at the dinner table?
At the dinner table?
Yes, I'm going to. If you get it, I can give you 10,000 naira.
Where do I place my fork at the dinner table?
Your napkin. Let me.
At least beside my food, of course.
Of course, you have to tell me where. What part of the? Is it at the top? Is it at the left? Is it at the right? Is it underneath?
Oh, okay. No, definitely at my right.
Okay, you are wrong. Good. It's left. You see. So you don't know, or you are forgotten. Me, I remember, and so that's how memory ties with etiquette.
Okay, now lastly, you said you also rap.
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Why rap? Why do you bring in rap? Why do you like it, or why do you rap as well?
Well, I think it's a normal passion and a gift. So I love to rap.
Okay.
Yeah, yes.
Okay, can you rap a little for us?
Why not? Okay, so let's.
Rap
Okay, Jesus, the most glorious judge. Break us like you did to Jacob. I'll be willing, chilling, so willing, healing all the sick. Prophesy, preach, pray, testify each day to in-laws, outlaws, indoors and outdoors. I'm serious. Now they call me genius. Delirious to think we're making billions. Don't abuse the word winner. I'm a born winner. Last night I had 3 demons for dinner. Ask Peter, James, and John. They'll tell you I'm not fronting. I could use the restroom and make the devil flush it. I'm acing, amazing. Homeostasis. I just finished memorizing the book of Galatians.
Wow. This is excellent. This is superb. So you bring in rapping, etiquette, memory enhancement.
Yeah.
How do you connect them? I mean, the rap. Do you think you have something you want to do with it, or you just just for your personal fulfillment, or there are other things you feel you want to do with it long run?
No, songwriting. So I write songs for people.
Oh, you write songs for people?
Yeah, I'm a songwriter. You see, the brain is very powerful. So the more you get into your brain, the more you find out that you have so many talents, you have so much potential, you have so many gifts. So that's it, yeah.
So what are the things usually, for finally now, let's talk about the things you like to eat. What are your favorite dish?
I'm a fruits and veggies person, fruits and veggies. So if you look there, you see a lot of cucumbers. Yeah.
Why do you like fruits and veggies?
And because they are healthier. They are healthier, they are less toxic. When you cook food, the more you cook food, when you boil food, most of the nutrients are gone. They are gone. So when your food is very organic, fresh, so even my fruits, I don't heat it, I don't steam it, it's just fresh. When you eat fresh food, your body, your organs will be fresh, you are what you eat. So when you eat fresh food, your organs are fresh. When you eat a lot of cooked and fried food, your organs are fried. So when people, their kidneys are fried, their liver is fried, because they eat a lot of processed food.
Oh, this is good. Now, I just want to ask you some teaser questions. I want to bring in like 5 words or names that you give me 1 word.
Okay.
For it. If you think of someone like Ronaldinho, what comes to your mind?
Perfectionist, consummate pro. One of the best who ever did it.
If you think of Elon Musk, what comes to your mind?
Trailblazer.
Trailblazer?
Yeah, that's who he is, a trailblazer.
If you think of Nigeria, what comes to your mind?
In this world, you shall have tribulation, but be of good cheer, have overcome.
Okay. If you think of the brain, what comes to your mind?
The most important organ of the human body, more important than your breast size, your chest size, how tall you are, the most important organ of the human body.
More important than your reproductive
organ? Yes, more important than that. I'm telling you, more important than that. Yes. That's why if you have to choose between a person having an amazing reproductive organ and he's mad, and somebody who is sane.
Okay, if you think of technology, what comes to your mind?
The future and the present and the future. The present and the future.
If you think of computer, what comes to your mind?
The way we live. I mean, one of the most important organs for effective living.
And lastly, if you think of Buhari, what comes to your mind?
Buhari, what I will think of when I come to him is that the Egyptian you see today, you shall see no more. That's what I think when Buhari. The Egyptian you see today, you shall see no more. Yes.
Okay, let me close it. If you think of 2023, what comes to your mind? 2023 election.
We are too excited. We are less strategic. But may God help us. We are getting too excited. We are less strategic. I think we should do more of less talk and more work.
Any final words?
Final words?
Yeah.
Life is amazing, and I'll say this to you. My final word is this. If you understand the principles of life, life will be beautiful. If you violate the principles, life will be difficult. Life is demanding without understanding.
Okay, so how can people get to reach you if people need to contact you?
Okay, very simply, they can go to my Instagram handle, Olusanya Adekanmi. Adekanmi, and then I have a YouTube channel, Adekanmi Olusanya.
Adekanmi Olusanya. Are you on Twitter?
Yeah, call me etiquette, but I'm basically more on Instagram and YouTube.
And then
YouTube, yeah.
Okay, yes. And maybe email them.
Yes, Mr. Etiquette Online at yahoo.com, and I can drop my business number as well.
Okay, Mr. Etiquette Online
at yahoo.com.
Okay, I think that would be okay. If you need number,
yes.
I'll ask them.
Okay.
I'll ask for it so to share. Alright guys, that's it. That is our special guest, Mr. Adekanmi Olusanya. I believe you are blessed with whatever we have said today. I believe you learned 1 or 2 things. And if this episode of this interview blessed you and you learned a lot from it, kindly hit the subscribe button, share this video with 1 or 2 persons that needs to learn from this, and also remember to turn on the post notification so that anytime we upload a new video, you can be one of the first to see it. So we know we talk about entrepreneurship on this channel. We talk about mindset, business, self-development, and also interviews like this. So from time to time we're bringing up things like this, and this episode has been really, really amazing. So ladies and gentlemen, thank our guest, Mr. Adekanmi.
Always a pleasure, man. God bless you, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's just it. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. My name is Benzik. Remember to hit the subscribe button and share this video with someone. I'll see you again next time. Cheers.